So good to connect. In the meantime, if anyone wants to share with us in the chat, where are you from? What are you working on? That's really great. We're always happy to connect everyone. See, we have Tom from the Czech Startup Association. What a great startup ecosystem. So that's very good. I'm very glad to hear about the Startup Act of Czechia. Czech Republic. I didn't really know you have one. So that's great. We've been tracking the Czech ecosystem for a very long time now, Prague and Ostrava. So that's great. If anyone else wants to present themselves, feel free. One of the goals is for you also to connect with one another and maybe create some connections that are going to be useful for you. So that's cool. Good. I see we have also some guy from where? From Alberta, Calgary. That's great. Great ecosystem. Also, we work a lot with the Calgary ecosystem, so that's really great. And just like you said, a very fast-growing startup ecosystem. Good. So I think we can start. So let's quickly go over it. And I will say that this presentation is also for you to ask questions. For me, the most convenient way to answer is if you send it in the Q&A using the Q&A button. So I'll try to stop in the end of each slide and basically answer the questions. So if you have one or a few, please feel free. And yeah, let's get going. So today we're talking a little bit about how to promote your startup ecosystem. My name is Ali David Rokach. I'm the CEO of StartupBlin.com. That's my email if anyone wants to reach out after that. And what we're going to do today is a very quick introduction of StartupBlin. Then a little bit of startup ecosystem promotion overview, a little bit of best practices, a case study, and really hoping to hear your questions and your insights. I think some of you have some very interesting experience in promoting your startup ecosystem, so we would love to also hear from you. What do you do, and what are the best practices that help you to promote your startup ecosystem? A little bit about StartupBlin. It's a global startup ecosystem research center. We have a huge map of startups, more than 250,000 startups from all over the world, working together with more than 100 governments and multiple S&P 500 corporates, basically helping everyone with their startup ecosystem development journey, whatever people are working on, especially the ecosystem developers from private sector, public sector. We work together with them. We have quite a few partners that are supplying us data and support: Crunchbase, SEMrush, Statista, MIT, and so on. So there are quite a few ecosystem stakeholders that we really enjoy working with. One of the things that we do is startup ecosystem development. So we look at ourselves as an organization that supports the growth of startup ecosystems of more than 100 governments that are partnered with us. We do that by mapping the startup ecosystem to the best of our ability. Then we basically analyze whatever we mapped. We then benchmark the ecosystems to all the other ecosystems in the world and share this analysis with our clients. Some of the analysis is actually bad news. Those are basically internal things that our clients are working on to build a strategy and to understand what do they need to improve. Some of them are good news, and those good news they usually promote, which is something that we are great believer in terms of promoting all the time your startup ecosystem. So that's the idea. And yeah, we've been working with few of our clients for many years. It's been really a privilege to see some of those ecosystems, like Kingston, for example, growing since we started with them back in 2017. So yeah, and I do think that we all have to look at startup ecosystems as a marathon, not as a sprint. We're basically building the future economy of our cities, of our countries. This is a thing that takes quite a long time, and but you can also achieve very interesting results also on the short term. So that's always good. A little bit about the Global Startup Ecosystem Index. It's an index that ranks the startup ecosystems of 1,400 cities and 110 countries every year. Fresh results about what's going on in the world. So that's something that we really enjoy sharing. A few quick updates from recently that I'll share with you. One is that, so one of them that is, we have a few industry reports, because StartupBlin is not only ranking ecosystems generally, but we go deep into each industry, trying to figure out the strengths of each ecosystem per vertical. And I do want to say that generally startup ecosystem development and promotion, it's not all good news. But when you analyze a massive quantity of data, there is always good news. So let's say if we don't have good news in one vertical, there's going to be good news in another vertical. If the momentum is not good, the global momentum is not good, the regional momentum might be good, and so on. So our job is basically to really dive deep into it. Those reports are the hardware and IoT report was done together with Siemens. The energy and environment report was done together with Smart City in Barcelona. So basically, those reports are basically talking about what's going on currently in those specific verticals in the global startup ecosystem. A very exciting report that we're going to launch in January is the Innovators Business Environment Report, IBE. It's a global index that is ranking the countries based on how easy is it to do business. And we are true believers in business environment. One of the most effective ways that we've seen to build a startup ecosystem is, other than promoting it, which we'll speak about today, is to improve the business environment. And we've seen it as the most effective policy advising tool that exists. It's no coincidence that the startup ecosystems that grow really, really fast, Singapore, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, El Salvador, those are ecosystems that were not that strong 10 years ago. What they've done more than anything is just make business extremely, doing business in their country extremely easy. And that's the most powerful tool you can do to build an economy, to rank the countries only based on their doing business environment. So that's something that we're very much looking forward to. A little bit about why startup ecosystems matter for entrepreneurs, and that's also good for startup ecosystem developers, because sometimes when we try to promote something, who cares, right? Most products, nobody really cares. In the case of cities and the promotion of cities, the smart entrepreneurs in the world are very, very in listening mode. They need to know which cities are winning and which cities are better, especially than their current cities, so they can use this to move, to relocate. Investors are using this to basically understand where to deploy their cash. Corporates are using this to understand where do they expand to. So the beauty of the promotion ecosystem, it's actually news that the public is very thirsty for. It's a tool for decision makers, for the vast majority of ecosystem stakeholders, and the general public that is also interested to know, do they live in a place, in a country, in a city that is a winning country or city? So by all aspects over here, there is a lot of demand for those news. The reason why entrepreneurs care a lot about this is that the startup ecosystem that they choose has massive impact on their chances of success. And this is something that everyone has to take into account. If someone is building the same startup in London or in a small village in East Europe, it is very likely that the same startup with the same team is going to be much more successful in London And that's because the opportunities when you are in a great startup ecosystem are simply much better. You have better access to investors, to clients that are used to work with startups, to co-founders, to team members, to knowledge, to events, to a mindset of entrepreneurship, to cutting edge knowledge. Simply, if you choose the right city and the right place, many, many good things are going to happen. Now, a lot of us cannot go to San Francisco, and that's okay. But the idea is to keep on optimizing and making sure that within our selection, with our limitation, we're still picking the right place. So that's important. Let me just say hi to the new people that arrived. I see that we have Matthias, so that's good to have you with us. And we also have Rajesh from India, so that's great. We have Europe, America, and all of it together. So that's good. And if you have any questions, again, the QA button is the best place to is 1,400 cities that we rank. And I do have to say that there is only one city in the world that does not require startup ecosystem promotion, which is San Francisco. So other than that, definitely all the others do need it. There is currently only one winner. We have a question about how do we gather information for the report, and the idea is as following. There is a giant database that StartupBlin has that it's live on the site on startupblin.com. When you go to Startup Map, you will see more than 200,000 startups. This is built together with many, many partners. First of all, 100 governments that contribute a lot of data, and the global data partners like Crunchbase, SEMrush, and so on that are connected via APIs and so on. We gather all the information, and then we build an algorithm that has more than 40 parameters, more than anything, number of startups, total amount of investment, number of unicorns, many, many other parameters that basically create the total score that you see here on the right and the growth rate that is calculated for each of those ecosystems. So that's a little bit about that, but you can read more in the report. The report that I showed you is available for free. There's a very long methodology section that goes over everything in terms of how do we do that. A little bit about startup ecosystem promotion. A startup ecosystem, which is basically a city or a country, sometimes a region, we see it as a product. Good products don't sell without marketing. So if you have a good product, but only you know that your startup ecosystem is great, but nobody else knows, the amount of loss for the ecosystem is going to be huge, because if you share those news, two things are going to happen. More people are going to stay because nobody wants to leave a winning place, and much more people are going to arrive. So marketing is absolutely critical. I do want to say that, of course, a good product, in this case, a great startup ecosystem, is also critical. But I've seen a few examples of startup ecosystems that are not so good, that are heavily promoting themselves and are becoming much better. So promotion is actually a very powerful tool. So that's something to be said. The problem in startup ecosystem promotion is that the owner of the ecosystem, the one that has KPIs, OKRs about the success of the ecosystem, are the governments. Now, I do have to tell you, many, many governments are not marketing oriented. Some of them are still struggling with the idea of what to do with their startups. Some of them don't have a strategy. The 100 governments that we work with have a very, very clear strategy. But I do have to say they're special because there are 10,000 cities in the world, 120 countries. About 10% of them, I'm sorry, not 10%, about 2% of them actually dedicated time to think about the topic of startup ecosystem development and their economy of the future. 98% of cities in the world never really thought about the topic. So I do want to say those that are thinking about the topic are in a massive advantage because governments are moving relatively slow. If you're one of the 2%, you have a big low-hanging fruit ahead of you. So that's the idea. We unfortunately, one of the things that I like the most in the global startup ecosystem is the private sector, the startups, the corporates, and so on. They are not going to do the promotion for you. So unfortunately, cities and countries are owned by governments, and the only ones that have budget or interest in promoting cities and countries are the governments. So that's kind of like the idea over here. One of the reasons that cities or let's say governments are not putting a lot of effort into it, or many of them, the vast majority of them, is that they don't really understand the consequences. They don't really understand what happens when someone like Toby Lutke is leaving Canada, is leaving Germany, for example, and going to build this startup in Ottawa, Canada, basically building a company that is now worth 50 billion. I don't know how much Shopify is, but basically transforming the economy of the city that he chose to incorporate. So there are many examples. By the way, Canada has also Stuart Butterfield that basically created Slack and he left for the USA. So there is a really interesting game in terms of competition between all the cities in the world to acquire talent. And unlike before, a talented person that builds a great startup can transform an economy. I mean, can create a business that is worth many, many billions of dollars. So over here, it's so intelligent to spend time on promoting your ecosystem. So it's practically a no-brainer. The ROI is out of the roof, but many governments unfortunately don't understand that, and that's fine because as their city is declining, as their young ambitious people are leaving, as people are not arriving, at some point they will understand. But there are a lot of wasted years in the process that the countries and cities that understood this early, and early is even now, because as I mentioned before, most of them are not even in the game, the economic impact here is going to be huge. So that's basically the idea over here. And again, if you have any questions, the QA button. Good. So let's talk a little bit about the timeline. So I do want to say the development of a startup ecosystem takes decades. Some countries like the USA that started the first one to start building a startup ecosystem, Israel that started about 30 or 40 years ago, they reap the benefit. The vast majority of the benefits are arriving actually now. But the beauty of promotion is that it accelerates the process. So as we mentioned before, if you're successful or you found a few anchors in terms of data that can signal why is your city the right place to stay and to arrive to, then the promotion element here is actually relatively fast. You can find those advantages, those unique advantages, because each city in the world has unique advantage it can promote. So although startup ecosystem development takes a long time, the promotion, hunting for achievements, is relatively fast, and it provides very, very high return on investment. So that's sort of like the idea over here. And again, just to repeat the point, if we have a winning ecosystem, and if we celebrate a winning ecosystem, our young population and our other population of entrepreneurs are going to stay. People are going to arrive from the outside. We're changing the narrative of how successful and non-sleepy is our city and country. So that's kind of like the idea over here. And that's why we really think that promoting a startup ecosystem has a massive ROI that we just don't understand why all the cities in the world don't do it. So that's a little bit about that. I'll just say that basically what we're doing is a few things. First of all, we are creating a stack of achievements for all the cities and countries that work with us based on data, based on algorithms. Or basically what exactly in which sectors, in which specific elements are they winning to help them brand the city. Then we also do interactive portals to help celebrate those achievements. And we also do promotional reports to be in a situation that wherever you go, you can give a report to people to kind of celebrate the top achievements. And we've done that. You can see over here some of the cities. Many of you are not even aware that they exist. And it shows you how beautiful it is when a small city or a region like Guanajuato in Mexico understand the importance of startup ecosystem. They're going to be even ahead of Mexico City in terms of promoting and creating this machine of basically if you want to do business in or startups in Mexico, Guanajuato is the hidden gem. Fukuoka is another example of a city that, although in a country that is dominated by Tokyo, Fukuoka is really standing out in how active they are in basically promoting and pushing forward their startup ecosystem. Markham, for example, in Ontario is also doing a great job on this. So there are quite a few municipalities and regions in the world that are extremely interested in basically creating this brand of a startup hub. And those are our favorite clients. So that's sort of like a little bit about the idea in terms of how do you use those assets to promote, to distribute, to create a brand. On our side, basically, we're very, very happy to have this flagship report that ranks all the ecosystems, because that allows us to really celebrate ecosystems on data, on real algorithms, and that's something that we really enjoy doing. And basically, the idea is that when you have all this data, you can actually build the correct brand, because there is only one ecosystem in the world that is very general, and this is San Francisco. But all of us have to look for the data, to benchmark the data in order to build a marketing dossier that is focused on our city or country unique strengths and unique success. And again, every city in the world that we've been working with or analyzing has a specific unfair advantage that once discovered can also be heavily promoted. That's something that we do quite a lot. Other than celebrating the city and the country, we also always have to celebrate the entrepreneurs. People like to connect with stories, and the stories of our entrepreneurs are very, very important. And it doesn't mean that our entrepreneurs have to have unicorns. Even someone that raised an investment of $5 million, just promoting the news create a flywheel that now many people in the age of this person are going to say, wow, this person just raised $5 million or exited in $20 million, something that is much smaller than a unicorn. Maybe I should not have a job and try to build my own startup. So the idea is that promotion is also changing the national psyche in terms of why is it worth it for me to build a startup instead of getting a job? And of course, why is it worth it for me to stay in my city instead of going to another one? So that's basically the idea. Governments have resistance to startup ecosystem promotion and to promotion in general for various reasons. First of all, when you promote, you're taking a risk. You're taking a risk of people saying, you're just promoting and it's not true, because there are always naysayers in every country, in every city. There are always the pessimists that say, it's not true in this place, and so on and so on. So governments are saying, you know what, let me not take the risk. But you have to take the risk. There is no other way around it. Some of the countries and cities that we speak with say, you know what, we have a good startup ecosystem. We let the product speak for itself. The only city in the world that can let the ecosystem speak for itself is San Francisco. All the others need to heavily promote. We are in a world of a zero-sum game. In terms of entrepreneurs and capital are usually flowing to one place. A person can only build a startup in one place. They cannot be in 5 cities in the same time. Most of the investors are focusing on one city. So by not promoting, you're leaving so much return on investment on the table that it's a little bit sad. One of the most common resistances out there is that we're not ready yet. Our ecosystem is not ready yet. It's not impressive yet. It's only going to be impressive if you promote whatever you've got, even the small achievements, to be in a situation that it grows. If you keep it hidden, nothing's going to happen. The only startup ecosystem that is ready in the world is San Francisco. and maybe New York or London. But basically, it's San Francisco, and practically everyone else is not ready. They have this advantage. Comparing them to San Francisco, they would look much smaller and so on and so on. You're never going to be ready, but you need to market, just like a startup. Startup is never ready, but needs to market. If you are promoting your startup ecosystem, you have to adopt exactly the same approach. Some cultures have a little bit of a negative connotation to bragging. And, for example, the Nordics, again, it's admirable as a character, but it's not good as a marketer. We need to keep on spreading the news. Again, there are 1,400 cities, 10,000 cities in the world, 200 countries. There's a lot of competition out there. So that's basically the idea of why people have resistance and why it's not a good idea to have resistance. So some advice, just like the saying "always be hiring," we're saying always be marketing. Many ecosystems, many of them are not our clients. One of the things I like about them is whenever I go to an event, I see them there. And this is something I appreciate a lot, like the hustling mentality of actually going to places and keep on promoting your ecosystem, meeting people, giving them a brief about why should they move to your ecosystem and so on. Those are things that make a lot of sense, and we're happy to see more and more cities doing that. Actually, the government officials behave as a startup. They're marketed in the same type of energy. We do believe that the government should not do everything on its own. It should work with partnership with magazines, hire companies like StartupBlin that have a lot of traction. Do whatever you can to basically find the best organizations and the best professionals to help you do the job, and have as many what we call data weapons, which is basically marketing weapons that are based on data, because those are much more perceived, much better than we have a great startup ecosystem. So if you say, actually we checked and our momentum or our current growth is above 30%, and we're top 10 in hardware and IoT category, people understand it better than just something subjective of it's a fun place to live and we have a great few startups. So the idea of using data is something that we love doing a lot. So that's the idea. Yeah, and we're also great believers that we prefer governments, and we've seen governments that are successful if they work more on the macro and less on the micro. And what do I mean over here? I mean, many startup ecosystems and governments are now spending millions of dollars on building more incubators, accelerators, giving grants. The micromanagement of an ecosystem, we've actually seen that it does more damage than good. It distorts the ecosystem, it distorts the core incentives of your entrepreneurs. So we prefer to work on the macro. Macro is, let's understand what's going on. Let's map. Let's analyze. Let's benchmark. Let's build a strategy, and let's promote. So, and then we also, one of the things that we do is let's improve the business environment. So we prefer to work on the macro instead of picking favorites and trying to give them grants and distorting the incentives. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's the idea. And yeah, basically just celebrate. That's basically what we always tell our startup ecosystem developers. Try to celebrate absolutely everything. If you don't have unicorn, celebrate the ones that raise $10 million. And by celebration, we create this flywheel, and we're also creating this cultural change. So that's something that we really enjoy doing. And we enjoy seeing our partners doing as much as possible promotion. Let me just end with a quick case study. This is a little bit about Estonia. Estonia is a very interesting case. It's a country of less than 2 million people. Nobody should have even heard about Estonia. But they have been extremely determined to create a startup hub. And they've done that by actually creating some really nice startups. Some of them, by the way, Skype, for example, is a Swedish startup, but everyone identifies it as Estonian startups. Why? Because the Estonians know how to promote. They know how to celebrate things. They also they knew before how to fake it until they make it. And now they made it. And they're considered now one of the top digital nations in the world. They have amazing startups. Skype was the first one. Then they have Wise, TransferWise, and Pipeline, and many, many other excellent startups, Pipedrive, many startups, Bolt, many startups that have basically 2 million, less than 2 million population country, created massive startups, and a lot of it has been the focus on promotion, on creating this digital nation brand that has served them so well and is actually transforming the economy of Estonia. In a way, Estonia faked it until they made it, and I have very, very deep respect for them, specifically for the work that they've done. They understood that it's all about perception, and for many, many years they've been extremely focused on creating this brand of startup success. So that's basically it for today. If you have any questions, this is my email, elite@startuplink.com. If you're doing ecosystem development, we would love to speak with you, learn a little bit about what you're doing, try to help you as much as we can. And that's basically it for today. So really appreciate your time and hope to see you in our next webinars as well. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Take care. And let me see if there are any questions. Actually, no. So we're good. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.